All right, we're going to get started. Thank you all for showing up tonight. I'm going to turn it over to Matt shortly because we've got a good night of both gathering information, hearing things, but also giving feedback and a little bit of some exercises he's going to walk us through. So I don't want to take a whole lot of time in the introduction. So let me begin with a prayer, and I'll turn it over to Matt. Lord, thank you for bringing us together today. Thank you for your faithfulness through so many years to this congregation. Help us, Lord, to have ears that hear what your Spirit is saying and leading us and guiding us. And may our lives, Lord, be lived for your glory. And so bless us as a community of faith. Make it clear, Lord, the mission you're calling us to, and give us hearts that are eager to follow. And so we ask your blessing to be upon us tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thanks, Steve. Awesome. Well, it is great to be with you all tonight. I said to Steve, so I was here, many of you know, I had a chance to meet earlier this year, so it's really good to be back and at least see a few familiar faces. I am grateful for that. But those of you that I may not have had a chance to meet, my name is Matt Lake. I serve as a lead pastor in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. And you might remember the only reason you might know Williamsport would be because Little League, thank you, very good. Little League World Series. But I said to Steve, even though I was here, earlier this year, I stepped off the plane today, right here, and I was like, there's just clear skies and sunshine and a perfect little breeze. It's just almost magical. And so I know you know that, but as an outsider, a Pennsylvanian, I just want to name that with you again. So it's just really good. So excited to be here tonight with you. And also thanks for taking time. I know that life is full and busy. And as Steve indicated, we are going to take a little longer tonight, but I'm just going to ask for your investment in that time because I really believe it will be of worth and value for you and the life of your church. So we're not going to be here all night or anything, but it'll be longer than some of your normal meetings. But you can rest assured it's not going to just be me talking at you for the next 2+ hours, okay? So anyhow, I know that Steve just offered a word of prayer, and I'm really grateful for that. As we get started here tonight, what I want to do is give both a bit of a recap on where we've been, kind of how we're looking to think our way forward, pray our way forward, experiment our way forward, share some results of the work you've already done, but then also make sure we look ahead as to what will be coming. Because actually, some of you may realize or may not, we've been doing work now for a number of months together. And I'm going to give you a summary of what we've learned and then indications of what that may mean for us moving forward. So that's going to be our time together. As we get ready to start, just as a place to begin, I want to remind you, because I know that for you as a church, one of the things we know and heard a lot of is that diving into Scripture is really important. And so I'm really encouraged because part of what we're going to talk about tonight relates directly to one of the encounters that we hear in the Old Testament. It's a story that you know, but in Exodus chapter 16, by this point, the people of God had been set free out of Egypt. And do you remember when they were in Egypt, what did they want? Did they want to stay in Egypt or did they want to get out of Egypt? They wanted freedom. They wanted to get out of Egypt. And was it sort of like a light, Lord, please get us out of here? No, right. It was like, Lord, please get us out of here. Begging to be gotten out of, right? So the Lord creates a way, miraculously, all kinds of miracles, right? The 10 plagues against Pharaoh and Egypt, and then culminating in the splitting of the waters of the Red Sea. So God is doing what they have asked to do. And then God is even showing them out in the wilderness every day how far to go, right? Whether the tabernacle or the cloud, they're going day by day. They're getting what they want, except the only problem is now that they're in this new land, they're not as familiar with it. It feels foreign in some ways, in lots of ways. And somewhere along the line, the very thing they were praying for, that God has provided to move them forward and out of slavery and into freedom, something happened to the people of Israel that even though they knew what they were supposed to do, and there were clear steps to do it, this is what we hear in Exodus chapter 16. The whole Israelite community set out from Elim and came to the desert of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month. They're only in month 2. After they come out of Egypt, in the desert, here's what the whole community grumbled against Moses and Aaron. The Israelites said to them, "If only we had died by the Lord's hand in Egypt." What? There we sat around pots of meat and ate all the food we wanted. Talk about making up the past. But you've brought us out here into this desert to starve this entire assembly to death. Now, I share all that with you because the problem with that, with the Israelites, was not a lack, I can shut that off. The problem with the Israelites was not a lack of knowing. It would be what we would call a lack of heart, a lack of faith, being pulled out of their comfort zone because they didn't totally know what was coming their way. And they so were afraid of the unknown that they were willing to go back into an awful situation rather than continue forward into the unknown, even though God was leading them step by step by step. So the real problem for them wasn't knowing, it was the internal shift they needed to make to keep going forward. And they didn't want to make it. Now, I share that with you because by the end of tonight, there'll be lots of knowing. The real question will be, what will be the internal shift we are or are not willing to make as God leads us into new lands and new places? So I just want to name that up front. That's going to be our challenge. When you walk out tonight, I don't think you're going to have any trouble understanding the concepts and what we're talking about. But when we talk about adaptive shifts and challenges, it's not so much here as it is here. So we're going to use that as a bit of a jumping off point for us tonight. And I share that because, can you help me out? It's not going. I share that because, thanks. Maybe it did, sorry. I wanted to share, just lay the land where we are a little bit, kind of in our culture, our world as a whole. And you might remember, I actually shared this with you before, but I think it's a good kind of setting the stage for the new land that we are entering into. It says, every few hundred years throughout Western history, a sharp transformation has occurred. In a matter of decades, society altogether rearranges itself, its worldview, its basic values, its social and political structures, its arts, its key institutions. And 50 years later, a new world exists. And the people born into that world cannot even imagine the world in which their grandparents lived and into which their own parents were born. And then Peter Drucker says, our age is such a period of transformation. Now, Drucker lived clear back in the early 1990s. But the reason that I love that quote is because I think he's exactly right, except it's no longer 50 years later, a world that you can't recognize. I would argue it's 5 years, and in a pandemic reality, maybe 5 months. And so, okay, God, things are different. Things have changed. Now what? And that's really the journey that we began together. Like, you have recognized, like, one of the things we've learned, there's a lot of places of health in the life of your church and congregation, and we give great thanks for that. And there are also multiple opportunities to move forward in new ways. And so we're going to explore what that looks like and how we do that in this new world, this new time into which we're growing. And I want to submit to you tonight that the real answer here is not going to be to find what we would call the best technical solutions. It's not like, my goal with you is not just to come in, learn about your church, and say, all right, here's your list of 8 things to do, and you do these 8 things, and you apply them appropriately, and magically everything is better. It used to work that way, but not in a world like this. We've entered into a time where adaptive shifts are going to be needed. And so how do we navigate times like we're in now? If the technical fixes don't work, what is it that we need to be doing? Well, here's what I want to invite us to focus on here tonight. A woman named Margaret Wheatley has said this: it is possible to prepare for the future without knowing what it will be. The primary way to prepare for the unknown is to attend to the quality of our relationships, to how well we know and trust one another. There is one core principle for developing these relationships. People must be engaged in meaningful work together if they are to transcend individual concerns and develop new capacities. So my invitation to us tonight is to do what she says here. We're going to engage together in some meaningful work together. And what that means is it will require us rising up above what are my own individual preferences or desires. Instead, how do we work together for where God is collectively leading us to move forward in new ways? And so I just want to invite you right now to think, I don't know what it will require for you, but what will it look like in these moments to say, you know what, Lord, here I am, and I really want tonight not to be about me. I really want tonight not to be about what I like or don't like. I really want to be used by you and led with these people around me that I walk in relationship with in a holy way. And one thing I know about your congregation, having studied and listened to a bunch of you, one of your great gifts is you do walk in relational connection with each other. And that is a gift. You don't find it everywhere. So I'm going to invite you tonight to call on that relational connection together for where God might be leading us. And so when we do that, one of the definitions that we like to use, I work with A.E. Sloan and Todd Bolsinger, is we talk about defining leadership this way. Leadership is energizing a community of people toward their own transformation in order to accomplish a shared mission. Notice the part that's underlined there, their own transformation. I don't know about you, but it's very easy to point out to other people what they're doing wrong, what they need to change, what's not working with them. If we do that, we're not going to get anywhere. The real hard and heart work for us tonight is our own inner transformation so that shift can happen. I still remember now increasingly many years ago when I was in college, I had a chance to serve in our college government. And there was this one kid named Nate. I still remember Nate. Every time there was a problem, he came to me and pointed it out. Every single time. And finally one day he came to me and I was so irritated. And I looked at Nate and I said, Nate, if that's the issue and you see it, why don't you do something about it? And you know what he said? He looked at me and he said, pointing out problems is my gift, not fixing them. And he was serious. I was like, but are you kidding me? But he was serious. Nate was not willing to do that inner transformation work. He just wanted to blame others. And you know what? I find that a whole lot, even in the life of the church, that even though we are Christ followers and we're called to lay down our lives for others, man, it is so easy just to focus on what I like and what I prefer and what I want. But tonight, what we're going to focus on again is how we can be experiencing transformation ourselves. Just one other quick example. I don't know if any of you have ever heard the name Ben Zanders. Ben Zanders used to be the orchestra director for the Boston Philharmonic. And he tells this wonderful story of two different shoe salesmen who went to a foreign country to sell shoes. The first guy got off the plane, looked around, and saw that nobody was wearing any shoes. In great dismay, he called up his boss and said, I don't know why you sent me here. Nobody wears any shoes. Send me home. All is lost. The second guy got off the plane and looked around. He saw that nobody was wearing any shoes. In great excitement, he called up his boss and said, send all the shoes you can. Nobody here wears any shoes. What a great opportunity. Now, those two were in the exact same set of circumstances, but one was able to make a shift and one was not. Tonight, you have a number of opportunities. I'll be walking them through with you. My question for you is going to be, are we able to make that shift to see the opportunities or not? So here are the questions we've been exploring. Questions like, how do we embrace this critical inflection point in the life of your church as an opportunity for a new season of vital mission? Again, new land, new opportunity. Looking back in the Old Testament. How might we reclaim and revitalize our core congregational identity, values, and charism for this new creativity in God's mission? How might we discern and offer our gifts as a congregation to the pain points of a community in these disruptive times? How might we leverage what is beautiful and unique about the church to embody grace to those who need it? And how might we identify the underlying issues and organizational challenges that hinder us from being the church we need to be? The only way that we can answer those kind of questions is by extensive listening. So one of the reasons that I've been with you as long as I have is there's a summary of what we've done in what we would call our phase one part of this journey. And tonight we conclude phase one. You can decide later on if you ever want to do a phase two, but tonight we are finishing with phase one. And part of our goal in phase one is to provide extensive opportunity for listening so we can answer the questions that I just lifted up for you. And the great thing about this, in my opinion, everyone has had a chance to have their voice be heard. So we've done a survey where everybody could respond. We've had, now with me being here right now, 2 on-site workshop opportunities. We've had focus groups that have given feedback to questions. We've had storytelling exercises that we've done. We've done community interviews to learn the pain points in our community. And we're going to pull all of that together tonight to understand, all right, Lord, in light of those things, how are you leading us forward? And what shifts do we need to make in our own heart and soul and mind in order to live into where you're leading us and calling us? So those are the 4 ways of listening. And again, why this is important to us is because I could have just stayed away, read about you online, talked to Steve and a few others, and produced a report. But to do that would have ignored your heart, your relationship, your spirit. And so what we're trying to do is to listen well together so that we can journey in such a way that God is going to be able to work on our hearts together. So it looks like this visually. You did the survey right before I came the first time. We've been together. We did the focus group, the storytelling, the community interviews, the discernment time. I've got some information to share with you in terms of report. And tonight I'm going to share some things with you, but it's not finalized yet. Like, I will change what I've done so far even after tonight in light of your feedback. So that we can, again, do this as real time as possible. And along the way, in addition to myself, Pastor Steve's been super helpful, but there's been a transformation discernment team that's been also assisting us in this journey. And I'm so grateful for the work that they've done. So that's just a little bit of our process and what we've been doing together, and really grateful for that. So as we do that, I just want to highlight and make sure you understand this. My goal in working with you is to focus on what we'd see as the second column there. I could take an external viewpoint and say, if you just change these things, a little bit better communication pattern, a little bit better set of meetings, a little bit more clarity in your agendas, 10 minutes longer in your sermon, Steve, or not, or 10 minutes less, whatever you want it to be. We could do that. Those would be what we would call technical fixes. And we'll still address those things. Like, I'll give you some of those. But our real challenge is what you see in the second thing there, the second column, to recognize that what we're looking at cannot be solved with one's existing knowledge, skills, or tools. We need that shift in values, attitudes, habits, and behavior. We understand that because we're in this new season, there are no experts. There are experimenters. And those who think they're the experts, I just would say in general, watch out. I'm not an expert either. I'm experimenting too every day in my own setting. But it's the experimenting that leads us forward into a new day. And so that's really going to be our focus together here. As we do that, technical problems and solving them, that's important. You need to be able to do those things. When you do things well in a competent way, we build trust with one another. That's important, but trust alone does not carry us into the new day. What carries us into the new day is living into the adaptive challenges, and that takes a transformation of heart. One of the things we talk a lot about with people is that you have to have enough trust with someone on the map before you're willing to go off the map with them. So we're going to build trust through our competency in doing things well and being transparent and all of those things. But that trust is being built so that then we're willing to go off the map. And to do that requires that inner transformational work that I was just talking about. So this is what it looks like. When we encounter adaptive challenges, I want you to notice what's on the screen here. It's not just the head knowledge. That's part of it. I mean, we're going to learn together. But we have to understand that if there's going to be change of any kind, let's just name it. There is going to be some loss. It's different. That means there's loss of some kind. And you know how we are. When we have loss, we have grief. If this wasn't true, then every technical consultant report that's ever been done for any church would get done instead of being filed away in a file box somewhere, never to be seen again. The problem isn't our understanding of our head knowledge, it's when we go to live into it and it feels different and it feels foreign. Am I willing to continue on and deal with that loss? And then to recognize that when we move into new spaces, there are going to be competing values that we discover that just have to be named and navigated. Do we want worship to be excellent, and so only people who can do every part really, really well are going to be part of worship? Or do we want worship to be a place where everyone can be engaged no matter what? There's values in both of those, but those are competing. It requires that experimentation and a willingness to fail. The key question in adaptive change is not, did it work? The key question is, what did we learn? And then we build up resilience in the face of resistance. So my real goal with you tonight, and as we move forward, is to help you be equipped to deal with the resistance that comes so that when it does come, you'll be resilient and actually move on to new land and new places. And that's really what we focus on with AE Sloan, is this adaptive capacity to face and live into resilience even when there's resistance against you. So let me try to break it down this way. I'm excited about this. It's kind of new news in my life, but I've been thinking about this a lot. And that is this. I want to show you this picture. That's my wife, Jen. So I just want to show Jen off whenever I can, number one. So that's Jen. That's our daughter, Alex. She's our oldest. And then the other guy, his name is Hunter. And thankfully I like him because 2 weekends ago, he and Alex got engaged. All right? So there they are. There's my family. That's Zach, then me, then Hunter, then Alex showing off her hand and ring a little bit, Jen, and then our son, Josh. On the one hand, this is super exciting. Like, I want you to know I'm thrilled that my daughter is getting engaged. Well, she's engaged. She'll get married probably in May of next year. But I gotta tell you, it's kind of hard, too. Like, my little girl isn't a little girl anymore. And so part of what I'm learning right now is, first of all, who this Hunter guy is, right? We've had some conversations, let me tell you, all right? He's a good guy. I'm really grateful for that. But even though we just celebrated, like it was a surprise to Alex, it was awesome, I was happy, I'll be very honest with you that I was like, oh, our family as we've known it isn't gonna be that way ever again. That's sad, that's hard. And I just have to be honest about that, as happy as I am for her. I've realized that in terms of competing values to be named and navigated, when I look at her and Hunter, like, on the one hand, I want to be like that main guy for Alex when she needs something. Like, I'm her dad. But I also want Hunter to be that main guy because he's the one who's gonna marry her. And so how do I navigate those two things when they come together? And what does that mean for me? It's gonna require experimentation and failure. Like maybe this is new for us. We don't know how you best walk through an engagement and best walk through a wedding, and so we're doing our best, and sometimes we get it right, and sometimes not. We just had a conversation the other night, and my wife Jen and I were talking to Alex and Hunter on the phone, and we thought we were being super helpful, and we were to a degree. What we didn't know was we were kind of overwhelming them with suggestions and excitement. Well, Alex told us later, awesome, now we know, we can course correct. We learned, wonderful. And I can tell you, as excited as we are for the wedding, Jen and I have already started the conversations like, man, do you remember when Alex was little and we did this with her? That's not the case anymore. But we have a choice. And the choice is we can either do what is best for us. We want to hold on to our little girl, in which case Alex would not thrive. Or we can say our highest ideal is for Alex to thrive. And that means, to a degree, letting her go. Except we're not really letting her go, it's a change. And so again, what does that look like for us in this journey? That as I walk through things tonight, I just invite you to think about this. Like, what are we learning together? We're going to share a lot of learning tonight. Let's just acknowledge that if we live into these things, there's going to be some loss in some ways. There are going to be those competing values. What would it look like to be willing to experiment, even if we quote unquote fail, but learn along the way? And what would it look like if we hold as the highest ideal where God is leading us rather than where we want to go ourselves? So here's what we're doing. We want to dive into how might the charism of our church address the pain points of our community as an expression of God's mission in the world, and how might that inspire us to faithfully change and grow? And this is going to be our journey. I'm going to name your charism. I'm going to do that in just a moment with you. Your charism is who you are, your DNA, your code, your personality, your practices, your virtues that you hold important. We're going to define this together. Then we're going to ask this question. How might our charism, who God has made you to be, address the pain points of our community as an expression of God's mission in the world? And then we're going to be very clear on what the pain points are that we've discovered. And as we discover those pain points, we're going to ask this question. What's the unique calling that God has given us as a church to actually address those pain points in a real way? What is ours to do? And then once we realize that, we're going to be able to, in our heads, do number one, understand our charism. In our heads, we're going to be able to do number two, understand the pain points in our community. Where it really becomes, I would say, the challenge is then, all right, now that we know those things, how's that going to inspire us to change us to faithfully change and grow moving forward? And then that's where the transformation happens, to live into our adaptive capacity and the spiritual transformation before us. So, what are we going to have to change internally for our church's charism to be an expression of God's mission outwardly toward the pain of our community? So real quick, let me just pause there. Thank you for listening with me on that. I just want to set the stage for us. In a few minutes, I'm going to start to list out for you some of the learnings that we had. But before I go any farther, just help me to know from you a minute, is there anything that stands out? You could be inspired by something. You might have questions about something. You might be irritated about something. Bring it on, that's okay. But I really also want to ask, especially the last one, are you hearing anything that you're like, oh, if we're going to move forward in new ways, just help me out a minute. Is there anything just striking you thus far? Here you go. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I just wanted to get clarification.
Yeah, sorry. Yep. But the process in general, but it can actually be even what I've covered so far tonight. Are you just hearing anything that you're like, oh. Yeah. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Great. So the pain points of community, the definition, we're talking your broader community. People out there, not just inside the church community. Thank you. Great question. And I'll bring more clarity to that too as we go along. But yes, great. Thanks. Any other questions or just reflections at this point? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. You got to be faster than me.
Thank you. Yeah. What's your first name? Phyllis said, it seems then like we're hearing we should expect to face some loss. And because we resist that, yes. Exactly. Right. So please hear what Phyllis said. It sounds like you're saying we should expect to face loss. Yes. And we've already had it. Now you're asking for more? Yes. That's exactly. What's that?
The loss of what?
Loss of what? We'll find that out. But no, the biggest one being, if we move forward in a new way, then it would be the loss of what's been familiar to us to this point. Yeah. Exactly. It can also be painful. In fact, some parts of it probably will. That's not bad. Again, it's fresh in my mind. There are some parts of my daughter no longer living in my house, me getting to see every day, that are painful. And yet it's also so good that she has this wonderful young man that she's going to start a new life with. Good. Yeah, the positive is I might get to be a grandfather. That's very true. Very good. That's great. Yes, you are tracking with me. That's great. Thank you. Any other quick ones? And I'm going to move us on. Yeah.
Most important is that we're going to apply this to our church community and our faith family. But what I found interesting and what kind of struck me was we can apply this in so many other different ways, whether it be with our ministry groups, with our families, with our spouses. It really just makes sense and hits my heart.
Thank you. It absolutely applies here, but right, it applies in all parts of our lives and other places too. Absolutely. That's great. Thank you. All right. Good. All right. Thank you so much, Steve. Appreciate that. So let me give you some reminders of where we are, what we've covered thus far. You might remember from the survey that we did, these were the main words that popped up. And I just want to highlight again, you'll see that the biggest one was hopeful. There's a lot of hope here. Are there challenges and some frustrations and things to work through? Yeah, but look, we've got a lot of hope. There's a sense of gratefulness. There's a lot of good things happening. There's a lot of optimism. And yeah, we have some concerns about things. We have some anxieties about things. But please hear, the number one thing that you lifted up was a sense of hope. And I just want to read this for you, we're not going to spend time on it, but just kind of let this sink in. You had an excellent response to the surveys that we did. 58 were turned in, which is a great response for your congregation. I just want to say thank you for that. We could summarize it this way, that overall, St. Peter's Church by the Sea is marked by relational warmth, steady Bible engagement, and committed leadership from its elders and deacons. At the same time, the congregation voices strong concerns about worship vitality, declining membership, and slow decision-making, coupled with questions of direction and focus. The overall emotional tone is cautiously optimistic. Remember, words like hopeful, good, and grateful appear most frequently, yet this optimism is tempered by worry and disappointment. The survey points to a congregation at a turning point. It has strong relational foundations and trusted leaders, but must adapt its worship, vision, and community presence to remain vital for the next generation. So when we look at that, we also did focus groups, and the focus groups, again, I'm just going to highlight these super quickly. Number one, in terms of what are the things that are really working well here, and again, these are not aspirational, like this is actually who you are and what is true about you, and so we celebrate this. You are a truly welcoming and supporting community. You really enjoy each other, and there's a strong sense of care and support with each other and a willingness to walk with one another. You are grateful for the strong pastoral leadership that you have. The sermons are biblically based and thought-provoking and engaging, but beyond that, Steve is seen as accessible and supportive, and so we're grateful for that. Also, Bible studies and prayer teams are highly valued. Your commitment to spiritual growth is true and good, and your active outreach and missions, so programs that do support the homeless and seniors, immigrant families, those are all seen as valuable ministries that align with the church's mission. And so I just want you to celebrate those things. Like, those are great things. And at the same time, we know that nobody is perfect, right? There's no church that's perfect. There's no individual that is perfect. Hunter and Alex will find that out about each other, right? Like, they will learn that as much as they love each other, there's room and places to grow. The same is true for you. And so as a church, things that were named, and I know that y'all are in a little bit different season even now than when we did some of these questions and focus groups, but some of the things that I noted as not working as well were declining choir and music program, and again, I know there's been some changes there, lack of youth engagement and growth strategy around that, community and leadership, communication and leadership transparency, and then just an acknowledgement, you know what, we do resist change. We do resist innovation. Like, that is true of us. And I'm just really grateful that you had the willingness and the courage to name that with one another. So I'm not telling you that that's what it was. That's what you yourselves told us. And I'm just sharing that back with you in this setting. We had also asked the question of the focus groups, just like, what else do you want the leadership to know and to be aware of? And these were some of the things that rose up. Number one, just we need clear vision and long-term strategy. And so that's ultimately what this whole journey that we're on together is going to be partly about. Also, the desire for more social and fellowship activities. Again, you'll just really enjoy relationship and connection with one another, and that is a gift. And then you also had shared a desire for financial transparency and addressing stewardship concerns as they arise, maybe some unclarity at times is exactly where we are when it comes to finances. And then finally, an openness to change. But you said, we want to be open to it, but please make sure we honor tradition in the process. Now, here's one thing that I hope is a word of encouragement to you. On the one hand, we will be challenged to make adaptive shifts, but here's what I'm not going to do. We're not going to ask you to make an adaptive shift apart from who you already are. We're not going to ask you to be someone or to be a church that God has not designed you to be. We actually want to dive more deeply into who you are, and in living into who you are, let God use that to lead you in new places and new directions. So I hope that that is an encouragement for you. So if we summarize it, I'm just going to read what's in the red box there. We could just summarize it all this way. The focus group conversations reveal a congregation that deeply values warmth, hospitality, and the faithful leadership of its pastors and staff. The tone is largely appreciative, marked by gratitude for a caring community and hope for the future. At the same time, participants voiced real anxieties around generational sustainability, children and youth engagement, and the long-term viability of leadership in the face of aging demographics and potential burnout. A lack of communication was referenced as well, particularly between staff members and congregational leaders. And then, overall, the church is at a hopeful but pivotal juncture. It is celebrated for its relational depth and inclusiveness, while simultaneously wrestling with questions of identity, community engagement, and how to connect with the next generation in meaningful ways. Let me just pause there a second. Does that sound pretty familiar? Is there any, okay, I'm seeing some heads nodding yes. Is there any super surprise or shock in that for you, just as we're sitting here tonight? No? Does that feel pretty accurate? Great, awesome, good. Well, I hope so, because again, we've tried our best to listen to you. So this is really your words and reflections, but I want to make sure that we're on the same page. So I'm hearing that we are, and I appreciate that. So keeping that in mind, what we're going to do is, if you look at this last question here, last time I was here, we talked about the dance floor, and we talked about the balcony. You might remember the dance floor is what is it you experience day to day rubbing elbows with each other. So for example, let's take worship. The dance floor perspective would be walking out on a Sunday morning, rubbing elbows with somebody, and you're like, what'd you think of today? What'd you think of Steve's sermon today, right? Like on the floor talking with each other. The balcony perspective is so it's like if you were at a dance, on the dance floor level is like walking by someone, you can smell, the junior high boys Axe body spray, right? Like, cause you're right there walking through. The balcony perspective at a dance is you can go up on the balcony level and look down and you see the girls are over here and the guys are over here and this group is against the wall and the DJ's over there. You can see the whole big picture. That would be like here, maybe at a worship meeting or worship planning with Session or any of your leadership, and they're just saying, what do we want to see happen in our worship, kind of from a big picture perspective? That's what we've been doing here so far. Like those focus groups and the surveys helped us know on the dance floor. And what I'm trying to do tonight is to help give you a bit more of a balcony perspective. But I'm doing that for the last question that's here, which is this. In light of what we learned on the dance floor and at the balcony level, what then is the transformation needed for us to face our underlying issues and be who we are meant to be for the sake of the gospel? As we do that, let me just help us define your charism. I want to make sure you understand with great clarity what that means. We want you to understand, and you have a gift. You have a gift to offer. So what's the gift that your church brings to the community and to the world? And what is the unique manifestation of the Spirit that we need to celebrate, preserve, and live out in our mission together? So notice, it doesn't say change who you are. It doesn't say abandon who you are. We actually want to say, what do we need to preserve? What's the gift of us, the best of us in that way that the world needs? What does that look like for us? I'm going to skip that one. I was going to my church. I want to do your church. Here's what we've noticed in all the work that we've done that I want to lift up to you first of all. The top values that we've heard reflected back of who you actually are would be these three that are on the screen. And again, these are actual not aspirational. Like, this isn't what you hope to be, it's what you actually are. So number one, you have a genuine hospitality that I would say is rooted in a come as you are perspective. Like when someone shows up, you all are real to be like, come on in. Doesn't matter who you are. Come on. Second, you have what I would call a long-term relational faithfulness. You walk a long time with each other. You don't abandon each other quickly or when it gets tough. You hang together. And number three, what we would call incarnational service. So tangible things that you actually do, but they're grounded in biblical formation, all those Bible studies you do, and worship. That you don't just say, oh, we wish you well. You tangibly will walk with people to meet their real needs. Now, those are powerful. So I want to pause here for just a second, and I want to invite you to stop and turn to a neighbor, and I want you to say which one of the three you think is like, that's the one that's the absolutely, and then share which one of the three maybe surprises you the most. All right? So just turn to a neighbor. You're going to share with them one that you're like, that's definitely true from my perspective. That's the one that surprised me the most. Go ahead, turn to a neighbor. Find a neighbor if you need. Do twos or threes. Twos or threes. Yes, as you're talking, number three means you are a church that's actually willing to do something in service with someone else in tangible ways. So you don't just say, oh, we hope things get better for you. You're actually willing to walk with them and do real or hard things to serve. Yeah. Good. Good. All right. Just want to get your minds on this a little bit. So help me out here a little bit. First of all, how many among us said number one was the one that resonated the most? Just is there anyone that? Okay, a good many. All right. So can I ask, would somebody say why that was the top one for them? One of you that just raised your hand. Help me out a minute. So I'm asking, when you talked to your neighbor just a minute ago, I'm asking right now, how many of you said the first one listed here, I think that is definitely us the most? Okay, so can you share a moment why did you list that as like, that's definitely us?
Well, we don't care how you come dressed. We don't care if you wear shoes or sandals. We don't care whether you're brown, white, or black. That's what I would say.
Awesome. Like, and that just comes naturally to you. Or you have you've gotten to that place and you're like, awesome, that is great. So one more time, how many said number one was the top one for you? I just want to see that. Put them up high. If number one was your top one. I'm curious, when you talked to your partner just a moment ago, how many of you said number one is the one that we were like, that's definitely us the most? So, if right, we're not judgmental, come as you are. All right, thank you. Put your hands down. How many of you said, we think that long-term faithfulness, like, yeah, we do walk well with each other for a long time no matter what? How many of you would say, that was our top one? All right. Joy, would you share why did you say that was your top one?
I've been a member for 27 years, and I'm very involved, and the fellowship and the feeling for one another and taking care of one another has never changed. It's always there.
You have felt that like from moment one. You felt that from moment one. Like that's just been, yeah, great. How many of you here have been part of the church for 10 years or more? How many have been part of the church for 20 years or more? How many of you have been part of the church for 30 years or more? All right, yeah, thanks. Like, right, good. All right, excellent. What's that? There you go. Yes. And then incarnational service, like you will really walk with people in real intangible ways to serve because are a biblically formed worshiping people. How many of you said that was our top one? All right, great. So a lot of you then 1 and 2 is pretty evenly split. Now then I'm going to ask this. How many said the first one was the one that surprised you the most? Did anyone say that? All right. How many of you said the second one is the one that surprised us the most? How many of you said that? Wow. How many of you said the third one is the one that surprised us the most? Okay, yeah. So thank you. So could somebody, who just raised your hand, would one of you say, why this, it's not wrong at all. This is the one that surprised us the most. Can you just tell me why? Someone who just raised their hand. I saw hands. I'll call on you if I need to. There's no wrong answer here. I'm just curious. What was it about this one that maybe surprised you? Was it that it maybe didn't surprise you, but maybe just wasn't as high as the other two? Was that it? More of that? Okay, I'm seeing heads shake. Okay, excellent. Now let me ask this. Is there anything, so you see it says, I like and I wonder there. My first question, which one was your top one? That's kind of like, I like that one. Like that resonates with me. You just answered that. On the I wonder, part of me wonders, did we miss anything? Is there anything that you're sitting there right now that you'd say, I'm surprised that's not up there. I wonder why. So right here. Yeah. Well, what is it?
I hope this is within your same subject line, but we had mentioned that these were all very true, and we were wondering, I was kind of wondering why we've had a lot of members that have been coming here for years and years and years, and then all of a sudden they're not here anymore. Not because they died, but they just stopped coming and go somewhere else. And you know, you see that occasionally. I've seen it for years, and I've always wondered, well, whatever happened to them? What happened here? Yeah. And anyway, that's something that I thought of, and we agreed that,
Right. Absolutely, and that is definitely a good question to think about. I wonder why folks who maybe were here for a while no longer are. That would be a good thing to find out at some point. Yeah, Joyce.
After I'm thinking about this, historically, we've always been so, we loved our choir, the choir. I wonder why there wasn't anything up there about the choir. And now we're going through a whole change this last year with a new choir director.
Great question. I wonder, with something like the choir that has been so important for so long, why are we not seeing that up there? Great observation. Good. Yeah, go ahead.
Doesn't the choir figure in number 3?
All right.
It's definitely part of my worship and how the Holy Spirit touches me.
Great. Yeah.
As well as the pastor's sermon.
Yeah. No, great. So very well part of that worship formation. And I'm seeing some heads shake on that. Great. Good. Over here. Yeah.
I know at least 2, maybe 3 people that don't come here anymore, but they listen online every single week. That's the one good thing about the pandemic, because you can do that now, or you can even watch it later if you miss it.
Yep. Thank you. I'm not surprised that you would notice folks no longer here. Why? Because you're a relational people. So when that, you can text them too. That's right. Good. Is there any other comments on this? Anything else that you're wondering at this point? No? All right, great. Well done on that. Then here's the next thing that I want to ask you. I'm going to do this carefully, and I told you earlier I can live time this, and I'll take some notes if it changes significantly. But I want us to have as much crystal clarity on your charism as possible, meaning, again, who God has wired you to be. So just to save us some time tonight, I went ahead and I've pulled a statement together based on these 3 statements that you just saw, the values of your charism, to give you a statement to work from. And I'm just going to want to hear a little bit of, does this resonate with you? And if not, what needs changed? It's not mine, so you're not going to hurt my feelings at all right? But here's what I'm going to suggest for you. As your charism, just to help you again have clarity and to keep coming back to this, what would it look like to say, we as a church, we journey with people in relational care through worship and the word as a welcoming community that faithfully serves real needs. So let me read that one more time. This would be us saying that we together as a church, we St. Peter's by the Sea, we're a people who journey with people in relational care through worship and the word as a welcoming community that faithfully serves real needs. Turn back to your neighbor, have a little bit of conversation. Does this resonate? If so, why? If not, why? Turn back to your neighbor. Go ahead. Yeah.
How is that any different from what any other Protestant church?
Great question.
I mean,
Yep.
I grew up in
Yep.
I grew up in the Bible Belt,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I grew up in a family that I've got Quakers in my family,
Yep.
I've got Catholics in my family.
Yes. I'm so glad you asked that. When we come back, I'll answer that
That
first.
really goes back to one is find one where you like people.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily have anything to do with religion
Yep.
or some other things.
Yep. Yes. Great question. We'll start there. You're on it. No, that's exactly right. That is a great question to ask.
Yeah, the reason I go to this church is because I lived in Fullerton a long time ago, and Steve and Joy, Steve was the associate pastor there,
Okay.
and I kind of followed him around.
So
I've also been all over the world
So
in between.
part of what I hear,
I don't live here. I live down in Irvine.
right, but you're here because of Steve.
Yeah.
You're here because of the relationship with Steve. That's why, right? That's why you're here, the relational part. So I'll just tell you quickly, not every church is like that, but I'll speak to that.
Yeah, well, that's fine.
Great question. Yeah. Take another minute, and then we're going to come back together. I still hear some conversation going, so. All right. Actually, I'm hearing us die down, so let's come back together here a little bit. In a moment, I'm just going to ask for some feedback on this. But before I do that, and I'm sorry, what is your first name? Bill. Bill asked me a great question. He said, when I read that statement, like, what makes that really distinctive of us compared to other churches? Like, is it really that distinctive? I will actually tell you, it might feel surprising, but the answer is yes. It is distinctive, and here's why. I'm actually doing some work with a church right now. They're a little bit larger church. You know why people go to that church? For the programs, for the impeccable worship experience. You know what they need to work on? Caring for people in a relational way. You know what they don't have? Walking in on Sunday morning and seeing people they know. Not good or bad, but my goodness, this is distinctive. You know what else is distinctive here? We are a people formed through worship and the word, that biblical formation. I'll just say to you, I work with a lot of churches where, frankly, there's not biblical formation. That's distinctive. I work with other churches, they want to be welcoming. Don't we all? But they're really not. Somebody comes on Sunday morning, nobody greets them. Someone who doesn't look like them comes on Sunday morning, that's made clear. So you might feel like, well, aren't all churches this way? In part, that's because your conception of church, which is great, that's what we want. But I can tell you that is a distinctive statement for the reasons I just gave. And as we're gonna see, this doesn't cut that, I mean, this is your gifting and wiring. There's other areas for us to live into, which we'll get to. So Bill, thank you. That is a great, great question. So help me out here a little bit. Like, if you feel like overall you resonate pretty well with the statement, could I just see your hand, like when you talked with your neighbor? If you felt like overall pretty well, okay, great, okay, good. So it seems like we're tracking in the general right direction, but somebody help me out. Give me, somebody share like either something you feel like is missing or a word that you're struggling with, or yeah, go for it. Yeah.
I'm not sure if we know what the real needs of the community are.
Yeah. What are the real needs and what do we mean by that?
I mean, I understand why it's there, but I think I struggle with the word real needs. I think they're more quite often perceived.
Is it say that one more time, the last part? Perceived. You feel like they're more often, they're perceived. More often they're perceived, yeah. So you will be glad to know, I want to say two things about that phrase. The one reason that it's in there as part of your actual charism, and this came particularly from your focus groups, you have a lot of leaders now or in the past who not only led you spiritually, but walked with people to meet their real needs. Like there were a lot of stories shared of like people literally going to their homes to take care of them and do things for them. So real needs. Now what we're gonna find tonight, I'm so glad you said, what are the real needs? Before we leave tonight, community-wise, we are gonna name the real needs so we have complete clarity on that. So thank you for bringing that up, that's great. That's excellent, great. Yeah, Shelley.
I see worship and the word, and we know that Jesus is the word, but I kind of would like to see the word following Jesus somewhere in there.
Yeah. Following Jesus. Can I just ask on that? I mean, I'm just going to take some feedback. Is there a resonance with following Jesus? If you're like yes of some kind, can I just see your hand? Yeah. Okay. No, great. Okay. No, great. Following Jesus.
Time for another one?
Great. Thank you.
I don't see prayer up there, prayer groups, and they are so strong in this church. I have a prayer request in, and people ask me each week, how is the person that they're praying for, the people in the group?
That's
and
good.
They,
So
and they don't forget what it is.
what's that?
They don't forget
They don't forget it, right?
Yeah.
So I would say partly, I think that does fall under the relational care part, but I agree with you. There's an explicit naming of prayer almost everywhere through your focus groups and other places. So super helpful. Great, yeah, over here.
I would definitely agree about the prayer thing, but I would, looking at that, when I hear the word worship, that's, how do we worship? We worship through prayer. So I think it was covered in there, even though I do agree that that's a strong point. But that to me is in there with worship.
Yeah, yeah, okay, that's good, thanks. And again, let me say this. I just want to hear ideas. You all can actually fine tune it later at another time. So we're not going to spend an hour wordsmithing. But this is so helpful. I want to know what's missing or vice versa. So I do want to welcome a few more comments here. Yeah, back here. I think, yeah, back here, yeah.
if we are such wonderful people, how come the generation underneath us is not coming here?
If we are such wonderful people, why, what was the last part? Why?
Why isn't the generation underneath us replacing us coming here?
Excellent question. We will dive into that more, but let me say a couple things about that. Number one, why is that next generation not coming? I would argue, from what I understand, the shadow side of a long relational journey together is that unintentionally, we don't make that next connection. Like, we've been walking with each other, and for a while, let's go back to the very first slide tonight. It used to be this group here could walk relationally with one another, and just even culturally, the next generation would come. You didn't even have to really try. But now we're in a time that's not the case anymore. And so while we've been walking with each other as faithfully as we know, probably what we didn't do was notice or reach out to that next generation in the intentional ways we could have. And so I personally believe that is one of the reasons why. The other thing is, you all can be wonderful, but unless we figure out how to share that in relevant ways with that next generation, they still may not be here. That doesn't mean you're not wonderful people, but that also doesn't mean just because you're wonderful people, others will automatically come. And this is sort of some of the heart of 50 years ago, y'all could have just been great, and that would have been enough. But that's not the case today. Which is why whoever said, like, oh, it means we're gonna have to change. Yeah, we are gonna have to change something about ourselves. Precisely so we can connect with the next generation. That's good. Yeah, go ahead.
Sort of in response to Dan's comment, I think a lot of this is societal. When we were growing up, the stores were closed on Sunday. Yep. The kids didn't play soccer on Sunday morning. Yep. We're fighting against all those trends. Yep. My daughter grew up in the church. When she became adult, she doesn't go anymore. Yep. I've sure tried, yep. But something has happened along the way that we lost yep. that generation. Yep. She's 44. Yep. But also to say, we have, as having been a Stephen leader, if I were to give you an overview of all of the people that we reached, we had every age group of people that we ministered to. When it was needed, no matter what, we reached out to them. So we were more than willing to have them here, but ultimately they chose to leave.
Yeah. So I just want to comment on that briefly for a second too. Let's go back to the example. You are right, first of all. We are facing a lot of obstacles societally. Here's where the example I gave of the shoes, though, kicks in. We can either say, with all these barriers, that's it, we give up, we're done, there are no shoes to be sold. Or we could say, wait, there's an amazing opportunity here. And if you're like, wait, what are the opportunities? Let me share a couple with you. In the pursuit of all the other things, our younger generations right now are experiencing levels of loneliness and anxiety that are unprecedented. Who do you think has the best response or offering to a lonely, anxious people? I think a people committed to relational care, to meet real needs, to walk with you no matter what, will make a real big difference. And whether you're experiencing it here or not, one of the things societally that's happening right now, there's a lot of interesting things happening with Gen Z. Because you're right, that Gen X, a lot got skipped over. But something is stirring in a lot of Gen Zs where we're seeing responses in ways we haven't before, which the only reason I bring that up is to say I believe they're understanding something's, they're a generation that has everything materially, but are recognizing something's missing. So my point in all of that is bigger challenges, yep, But amazing opportunities, yeah. So thank you, really good. I saw another hand somewhere over here. Oh, Joyce, thanks.
I just wanted to make a positive comment. I thought you covered it pretty well because my first look at it, I saw biblical, I saw inclusive, and I saw caring. The things that we talk about that we are so much.
Great, that's really good. Thank you. Real quick, anything else major not in here? What I'll do is I'm going to tweak this a little bit more. I'm going to make sure Steve and your transformation discernment team get it as well. If you want to tweak it any more after that, that will be up to you. But it seems like we're a good part of the way there. But one last time, is there anything major that you're like, I can't believe that's not in there?
They walk with Jesus Christ. They love Jesus Christ, and they just shine with him. And I think it's awesome. I really do, and I'm grateful. But I think this whole church is just disciples of God, of Jesus Christ, and we really believe in Jesus Christ.
Awesome. Now, if you need a word of encouragement, Booker, right? Booker, thank you, Booker. Awesome. That's a perfect transition. If you hang in with me just a bit longer, so hold on to what he just said, your charism. He just summarized the excitement of it so well. Hang on with me for just a little bit longer. We're going to name pain points, and then we'll take a bit of a break, okay? Y'all are doing awesome. I'm so grateful. So here's what I want to invite us to do. We just spent time on the charism. And again, we got, I think, a lot of clarity there, at least from the feedback that you just gave. The question we want to ask that's going to then help us in our adaptive initiative moving forward to embrace some of those opportunities we were talking about, even in the face of challenges, is how might our charism address the pain points of our community as an expression of God's mission in the world? And so I want us to be really clear on the pain points. And you might remember, again, you guys did a terrific job with this. You're one of the best I've seen. I want you to know that. In terms of percentage of your people, the number of interviews that you did, we asked you to ask people out in the community. So coming back, these are not people in your church, although they would be impacted as part of the community. But we were asking people, the people that cut your hair, the people at the gym, the people at your book club, whatever it might be. Hey, ask these 3 questions. And I've told you this before, but I love these questions because one of the things that we're finding more and more with churches is that if you've been in the church for a really long time, sometimes you actually lose touch with how to talk to people outside the church. These questions work with anyone, and they're so helpful in a way to connect. So what's great about living here? What's not so great about living here? And if good people came together, what could they do to make it great for everyone who lives here? Those were the 3 questions. In asking those questions, there were 5 topics that rose up. And here they are. Number 1, homelessness. Number 2, political and civic division. Number 3, youth programming or education, the need for more of those. Number 4, safety and crime. Number 5, traffic and infrastructure. And we can summarize it by saying right now, and we're talking specifically this surrounding community, so not Pennsylvania, not Northern California, you all right here in your community. This is a community that longs for right now belonging, unity, and support for vulnerable populations based on the interviews that you did and the feedback that you gave to us, okay? So I want you to look at those for just a minute. I'm going to give you just a second. Let those sink in for yourself for just a moment. Now, here's what's really great about the questions that we did. You can agree with these. You can disagree. Again, I'm just telling you what the data that you shared said to us. One of the things I love about the questions that we asked, you don't even have to guess what you might be able to do. The last question was, if a group of good people came together and did something, what could you actually do in a relevant way to make a difference and be helpful? They gave us answers. And so I want to share these answers with you. It was this. If there was anything that a group of people could do to address some of the homelessness, that would be awesome. If there was anything that a group of people, good people, could do to build unity across political divides, we'd welcome that. If there was anything a good group of people could do to build community collaboration and just offer encouragement, man, that'd be amazing. If there was anything a good group of people could do to support our youth and provide either more education or more opportunities for them, man, we would welcome that. If there was anything that a good group of people could do to strengthen our neighborhood identity, build a sense of collaboration among us, man, that'd be great. Now, don't answer out loud. Do you think there's anything on this list that a group of people with strong relational love for each other and a willingness to meet real needs could do? I sure do. So, here's what we're going to do. In just a second, I'm going to give you a break, but I want to plant a seed that while you're thinking or talking to somebody else, my question for you when we come back is going to be, I want to hear from you to name from your perspective the top 2 areas that you think your church could respond to in some way. Sometimes when I present these things to other churches, what they think is, we can't do all of those. Nope, nor am I asking you to. But if this church collectively were to say 1 or 2 of these, we're collectively going to tackle our charism meeting that pain point, that could be amazing. So I'm just going to be curious when we come back. I'd love to hear from you as you understand your charism that we just defined, and you hear these. What do you feel excited about to be like, I think if we did this one, or I'm going to ask you for 2, realistically, we could do that. We could address that. Which top 2 would they be? Okay? So I'm going to give you 10 minutes to stand, stretch, get a drink, do whatever you need to do. Please, at 7:25, be back here, all right, wherever you're seated. So I guess it's more like 9 minutes, but go ahead, 7:25. All right, let me bring us back in typical church world fashion. We're over time. That's exactly right. Thank you. So come on back quickly here, as quickly as you can. Hopefully you have been thinking a little bit of which ones are your top ones. You're like, oh yeah, right. And we're gonna do it kind of quickly here. I'm gonna ask us to I'm gonna have you vote a number of ways here just to help me out to get a sense. So once everyone's back here, we'll do a little bit of quick voting. All right. Y'all are doing great, by the way. Thank you. I know it's a long day and a long night. Whoever provided all the refreshments, thank you so much. Yes, thank you. We are very grateful. Thank you, thank you. All right, good. All right, so here's what I want to ask. Keeping in mind clarity with your charism, we want to ask this question. What pain point is calling for our charism? In other words, what could be ours to do right here in this community? And Bill, during the break, made a great observation to me. He said, these dynamics, they are specific to this community, like to Orange County. He's like, it doesn't apply to like Presbyterianism everywhere. You know what? Bill's exactly right. And that's also a reflection of the good work that you did, because it should not apply to all of Presbyterianism. It should apply to life here. So I want to say thank you for doing that again. So keep in mind your charism. We are a people who journey with people. We journey with people in relational care through worship and the word, prayer, following Jesus, as a welcoming community that faithfully serves real needs. Knowing that is who you are, I'm going to be curious to find out then, what do you think we could actually address coming together? So let's just do it this way. And again, a number of votes. We'll do it quickly to help me out. Between addressing homelessness and building unity across political divides, just between those two first, which one would you say? Addressing homelessness or building unity across political divides? Which is your number one? So if it's building homelessness, raise your hand. Right? If it's building unity across political divides, raise your hand. Oh, goodness. All right. All right. Let me do it this way. I'm going to back up. I want to do all five instead. All right? I want to just do your number one. Yes, sorry. Sorry about that. I meant to do that. Sorry. Okay, let's do it this way. As you look at the five, how many would say, when I look at all five, addressing homelessness is number one in my mind? Just hands high, just so I can see. Okay, super. How many would say building unity across political divides is my number one? Okay. How many would say community collaboration and encouragement is my number one? Okay. How many would say supporting youth and education by providing more opportunities? Okay. How many would say strengthening neighborhood identity? Okay, thank you. That was super helpful. You probably saw the number one that you just picked out of those was supporting youth and education with more opportunities, and it was pretty overwhelming. So, super helpful. I want to do that one more time. Now we're going to take that one out. We know that's the top one for the moment. Of the remaining four, we're going to do it one more time. Which is the one that you think is the top one, okay? So if you think now the top one of the remaining four, addressing homelessness, if that's your number one, let me see that. Okay, if you think building unity across political divides, if you think community collaboration and encouragement, okay, and strengthening neighborhood identity. Okay, sweet. Good question. How are the two different between community collaboration and encouragement and strengthening neighborhood identity? I'm looking at my notes. I don't know that there's a giant difference between them, but I think looking at what I recall and understand, the community collaboration was more around like different service projects or physical things The strengthening neighborhood identity was more the personal relationship piece and fitting in, as it were. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Great. So what I heard was supporting youth and education, more opportunities as your number one, and strengthening neighborhood identity as your number two. There were elements of all three. Now, if somebody can help me out here a little bit, somebody that said supporting youth and education is like, I was a lot of you. I just need some help. Tell me why that was your number one. Can somebody share why that was your number one? Yeah. The youth is our future. Okay, great. Yes. Our youth are going through a really turbulent time right now. Yes. Good, yeah. Say that one more time. Bring in the youth and parents. Excellent, great, good, awesome. Well, anything else? Why the youth one? Like there was, again, a strong resonating there. Yeah, please. Yep. Yep.
Come there anymore because the local patrons didn't want the homeless around.
Right.
They went to another place, and I don't know how that ended up. We also have, for the homeless, we do the mail here. We have mail delivered, and they can come here once a week and pick up their mail. So we have done some things with that.
Yes.
We also tried to have VBS this year.
Yep.
And we thought that since we do a lot of Friday night things for the kids, that would be a good service, a good place to get something in.
Yep.
And the parents of those children had come on Friday night, said, no way, if you're going to talk about Jesus, my child's not coming. And I was flabbergasted when I heard that.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it is. More we can, how far do we have? I have no solution for that.
No, I appreciate that. And yet, to be clear, we're not saying that by looking at the top two that we would exclude the others. And it's also not to suggest you haven't done work in these directions, which is part of what I hear you saying. So thank you. Yeah, so, yeah, go ahead.
About homeless. Another thing this church does is they give quarterly to money quarterly to BCIS, Beach Cities Interfaith Services, which prevents homelessness.
Right.
That's what they do.
So just one thing I want to say with that, like the giving of money towards, in this case, the issue of homelessness, I want to be really clear, that's a good thing. However, I would also say that's a slight difference from your charism of the relational part. So I'm in no way suggesting not to do that. I'm just saying that, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, yeah. Yes. Great, great.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Got it. Yes. Awesome. Thank you. So there is that relational component then. Thank you for that. Yes, that's awesome. Thank you. Yeah.
As far as the young people are concerned, I've had my 17-year-old granddaughter moved in with me last fall. And the people she's encountering in high school, the problems of these children in their homes is unbelievable. Yeah. It's unbelievable. One parent is suicidal. There's so many, my granddaughter attracts all these problem kids, and their stories break your heart.
Yeah.
There really is a need.
There is a very strong need. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Amen.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, go ahead right here.
I think that since we lost Charlie Kirk, it's become very, very clear that there is a yearning for a place to be at home with faith, with a faith community. And that so many of the churches seem to be growing in attendance. And I would really love it if we could let our church be one of those too. Now, I don't know exactly how that happens, but it certainly is a dream of mine. We have had some young people come in who are starting to attend, but I think I don't want to say we're capitalizing on this, but I see this as a need. Right. And I would really love it if we could do something about that.
Yeah, thank you. And I hear you. Like, right, we don't want to use that language of capitalizing on a need, but I would say, do think there is a hunger that is expressed in these categories that, again, the body of Christ has the opportunity faithfully to respond to. And I think that's the opportunity that we're being given. And again, before we finish, we'll even talk a little bit more with like how that might be able to occur. But you're raising a really helpful question for us all to be thinking about. So thank you. I think did I see another hand? All right. Thank you. So one of the things that I would suggest is that we just start thinking about, again, your unique charism. What would that look like to apply particularly to supporting youth in education, providing more opportunities, and specifically around strengthening neighborhood identity? And it's exactly around that question of how that I want to invite us to spend just a few minutes here together. And so the way I want to invite you to do that is here's the question, now we're kind of pulling all of this together. If it was as simple, like remember what I shared with you earlier about the technical challenges versus the adaptive? You kind of already named here tonight, we've done some things. We've done some programs. And those are good, but then why are we not seeing like a response in the way that we would hope? I want us to try to peel back some of those layers tonight and to understand that, again, if it was as simple as a program, which is a technical fix, it would have, quote unquote, worked. So there must be something else going on. So what would that be? So when we ask this question then, what are we going to have to change internally for our church's charism to be an expression of God's mission outwardly toward the pain of our community? What needs to happen? So if you look at the graph on the left, the adaptive change process, the very last one there, we've looked at the charism. We said, how might the charism address pain points in our community? We've then identified the pain points that we just talked about. Now we ask the question, how might the recognition of those pain points inspire us to faithfully change and grow? What transformation needs to happen for us then? So this is kind of a bit full circle where we began tonight. And this is where I just want to invite us, like, I don't know all the answers here, but I want to invite us to ask some maybe hard heart questions around what might need to change within us and to think about that. As I have looked at, and again, I'm just going to do this tonight for the sake of time. I'm going to keep moving us along. I'm going to lift up for you what I believe are 3 adaptive challenges for you to think about moving forward, all right? So here they are. Number 1, how do we actually reauthorize the church's mission as for the community? So I hear a lot of great conversation around the desire to serve the community. If we look really hard at our own self and the church as a whole, is the real mission to connect outwardly to the community, or is it to keep on going what is happening here, like worship, programming, etc.? And I'm not saying that you forget about what's here at all. I'm simply saying, what would it look like if our actual heartbeat was for the community? Like, what would have to change within us for that to be the case? And I know that you all talk here a lot about grace, gratitude, and generosity. I put there parenthetically, reauthorize the church's mission as for the community, because I in part, as recipients of the love of God in our lives, and as recipients of the incredible generosity of God, then how might we be filled to offer that same generosity beyond our walls? What could that look like? Number two, what would it look like to embrace a shared lay-led leadership model rather than a pastor-centric model? When it comes to gratitude, I think that we use our gifts when we're filled with gratitude for what God has given to us. And so out of gratitude, I offer who I am unto God's service. You all mentioned tonight, we love Pastor Steve and the things that he does, and that is great. I do think that there is a strong focus still on Steve in this case as pastor in a very central way. And I know a lot of you all do a lot of different things, but what would it look like to not be so pastor-centric? I can give you a really practical example, like right now. Steve is obviously carrying his normal responsibilities, but then I believe you've had a shift in, like, with your administrative assistant. Is that correct? You're ongoing right now looking for said person. We're getting there. By default, the one who's been carrying that and doing his other responsibilities is Steve. And I think that happens a lot of times in a lot of places and in other areas. And so what would it look like to say, wait, Steve has gifts and abilities, but so do I. And I can be empowered to do A, B, or C, whatever it might be. So, but again, what internal shift would need to happen for that to occur? And then number three, what would it look like to reimagine worship identity for a new generation? And to me, I listed grace there because I think when we've experienced the goodness of God's grace, we just want to share that grace with others, no matter what it looks like. And I don't know what that would look like, but like just for example, as I was thinking about this for you all, let's go to, you picked tonight, number one, supporting youth and education with more opportunities. I know that right now you're already doing some opportunities for youth and their families when you're able. I do wonder, like, just outside of the box for a moment, what would it look like to say, let's do some worship with them at those times when we connect with them around learning or something else, like on, I don't know when you do it, Tuesday night or Friday night. Or in talking with those kids and we learn what they love, what would it look like to take part of our Sunday morning and reform it with them in mind? And being able to invite them into it because you have a strong enough relational connection with them because you've been walking with them. I don't know. I'm just raising the question. Because hear me when I raise those things, if we change a Sunday morning worship service, even sometimes, there's some loss in that, right? Like it might mean giving up one of my favorite things, but it might also mean seeing the kid that I've been praying for connect in a way that means something to them. And man, that's what I've been longing for. Now there's overlap among these three, but you get the idea here, the point of like, it's that internal work that we need to do to think about, all right, what then really needs to happen for these things to take fruition? Because I want to say this carefully. When I work with a lot of churches, I really believe the heart intent is to do some of these really good things until it means changing something they really like. And then the default is back to me, which means if you go to number one here, the mission is really still for me, not for the community. So, again, here's what I'm going to invite you to do. Thanks for listening to me as I go through those. I'm going to invite you to turn back to your neighbor, and I would love to hear you just have a little bit of conversation. Which one do you feel like you either could do, or which one do you feel like is really a big challenge? And I'm talking not you personally, it can be you personally, but I'm talking your church. Which one do you feel like we could do this as a church, and which one do you feel like, man, I don't know, that's a stretch? And I know you have lots of questions around it, that's okay, just as you understand it, as we're having this conversation. All right? Make sense? Which one we think we could do as a church, which one we're like, that one would be the biggest stretch. All right? All right, turn to your neighbor. All right, let me call us back here. Thanks for thinking on those a little bit. So I'm just curious, again, just helps me to get a quick sense. How many of you, when you look at the three, say, we think as a church, this is the one that we could most do? Like, it would be challenging, yes, but we're most wired to do this. I think we're up for the challenge kind of thing. How many of you would say, we really believe we can really orient our church's mission as for the community? How many would say, that's what I think we have the most opportunity to do? The number one, number one, sorry. Reauthorize the church's missions for the community. How many of you would say, that's one I think we could collectively do the most? Okay. How many of you would say, the one we can collectively do the most is embrace a shared leadership model rather than a pastor-centric model? Okay. How many would say we can most reimagine worship identity for a new generation? Oh. So do the third one, the one I just mentioned. Hold it high for a second. All right, and how many of you then said the second one? Okay. That's great. Thank you. So actually, those are pretty close, but the lay-led one was just a tiny bit more. All right. Now, conversely, how many of you would say we think this would be the hardest one for us to make the jump? The hardest one. Reauthorize the church's mission as for the community. If you think that's the hardest one to make, let me see your hand. Okay. How many would say it's that shared leadership model? That's the hardest one to make. Yeah. Okay. And how many would say reimagine worship identity for a new generation? Okay. Yeah, thanks. So not by a ton, but it was the hard. Say that again. Well, right, yeah, like how is the church even going to grow if we're not focused on a new generation? Sure, like that is definitely one of the questions. Right, no, that makes total sense. That makes total sense. So again, all I want to do tonight is kind of plant this seed with you. Like these are the shifts, the adaptive shifts that you will need to wrestle with to be able to move forward. And you can do that by applying your charism to the pain points we've identified. Now, you've already given some direction on that. We think we can support, or we want to at least support youth and education with more opportunities. Wonderful. And if you combine that with embrace shared lay leadership, Pastor Steve, we're not going to put all that on you. Like we believe that with the gifts that God has given us, we can rise up and do that. That one thing alone, to me, feels really exciting. Like we have a passion for this. We are committed to using our gifts for it. Let's imagine and see what can happen together. Like that to me is powerful. That gives you at least a starting point in terms of how do we move forward. I'm not saying to you tonight that's what you need to do, but like that may be very well one thing to move forward in that direction, which would be awesome. Joyce. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah. Yep. Correct.
Hello? Most people didn't hear you.
I said that before we can accomplish any of these items, that we are an older congregation, and I am one of them, that we don't like change. We are all going to have to think individually that we are willing to accept some changes and embrace them, and we need to make some compromises.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, thank you. Over here.
If I could just add to that, as a teacher with an entire school full of kids that are having a horrific time right now, that I think, I just want to piggyback on what Joyce is saying, as a group of older adults, that we have to be willing to sit, I'm gonna cry, shoot, listen to what those kids have to say, and then be willing to learn, to empathize with them, even though we can't understand that in their eyes, their iPhone 17 is not working and they're going to die tomorrow because of that. Or whatever it is, whatever that hurt is within them, if we can't just say, oh, honey, this is what we're going to do and we're going to make it all better. We have to be willing to flex and get down on their level to be a piece of them, to show them the love of Christ, because otherwise us trying to fix it isn't going to do anything.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Yeah.
Diane?
I just got to say something. We're talking about a large group of aged people that we would like to come, and we would like to see a lot of 30-year-olds too, and so forth and so on. But when it gets down to the younger ones, and I'm going to say maybe around the teenager years and a little older than that, you know, we can relate. I'm saying this as a mother, grandmother, great-grandmother. We can relate to them as much as we can, but they can't relate to us because of our age. Not because they don't love us, not because they don't think we're great, smart. They just don't. And of all the churches that I've been involved with through the years, we've always had a younger person reaching out to the youth, whether it be a youth leader, a youth pastor, or someone that looked young. And that's what the kids think of, the youth. I'm just saying, it would be great if we could do something like that.
If I could just say that, just kind of two pieces to that. One is, I hear what you're saying. I just want us to be careful if we pick out the one youth person who looks kind of like what we think they should look like. We've just diverted back to the pastor-centric or professional, like the staff person to do the job versus all of us. Like, I hear why you're saying that. But if we're not careful, like the systems we're used to is exactly that. That like, no, we need to find the one right person to connect with those kids. I would submit to what Lori was saying. I'm increasingly finding that what kids connect with is someone who will listen to them, sit with them, love them. And I don't think it matters what age it is. Now, when I say that, of course we want like your youth person and other things, but not just them. Like this is something all of us can do. So I thank you for raising that up. Yeah.
When you introduced number 3, you mentioned, bringing the youth into the worship service. And we do that today. But when we were doing our little discussion, I thought, well, why not invite ourselves over to their area and getting back to, I'm not sure who said it about being with them, sitting there working with them. How do we do that? I don't know, because we're all here at the same time, but that's for another day.
But even that, listen to what you just said. We've been operating to have them come on our turf. What would it look like to go on their turf?
Exactly.
We don't know. Let's experiment around it and find out and see what happens. Yeah, over here, another one.
We call ourselves the sisters. And at one of our sisters' event, I don't remember how we titled it, but we invited the young kids to come to our meeting, and they sat at our tables. We spread them around so everybody could to enjoy them. And it was amazing, some of the questions that they asked us, some of the questions that we asked them. And this one young man, I think his name was Harrison, most of you know him, little smarty pants, he asked us, did we know the names that were written on the bombs of Japan? And we just sort of looked at him because it's been a few years since we've been in school. And I said, well, do you? And he rattled the names off. I don't mean rattle nonchalantly, but he knew the names. So it was a very good experience. And then when we broke up for lunch, we gave them the opportunity to go back to their class and be dismissed or, stay with us. they all chose to stay with us and have lunch. And I actually thought that was very special. And I would like to,
Absolutely.
hopefully, maybe we can do that again sometime.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much. I think that's exactly right. Yeah, Shelley.
And I think the transformative thing, especially with youth, is that within each of us, not just programming, rethinking programming, but when we drive in Huntington and we're cut off by a kid on an e-bike, you know, what are we thinking? And I know my heart needs to be changed, you know, and I need to have patience and I need to pray for those kids. And when somebody comes through the door, you know, that looks funny, even though we say that we're welcoming, we hear comments. You know, why don't they cut their hair? Why don't they take a bath? Why don't they? We really need to look at our hearts. And, but the programming is important as well.
Thank you. So let me say this, and then I'll have one, you guys, thank you, you're doing awesome. I'll have one last kind of thinking part for you, and then we'll be wrapping up not too long after that. So thank you. But before we do that, remember what I said about, with adaptive thinking, the importance of experimentation. And remember what we've talked about, like grief and change. To do the kinds of things we're talking about, again, I'm not saying that we need to do all 5 that are listed there. But here's a question I would wonder about. If we've collectively tonight said, we think the most important one, and that we're wired for, is supporting youth in education by providing more opportunities. And I've also heard, but we've only got so much time, and we can't do everything, and how are we going to do this? I wonder what an experiment would look like to say, for 1 month or 2 months, or maybe 3, we're going to pause almost everything else. And outside of our worship time or the bare essentials, collectively as a group, this is what we're going to give our attention and energy to. Now, not forever, and I'm not at all saying even tonight you should. But when I say that, what's rising within you? If there's something else that you do here that you love, and now you're like, wait, you mean my thing stops? There's the adaptive catch. I'm not saying that you have to do that, but what would that do? We all give ourselves a little bit more time. We do it collectively together. We do it in exactly the way that Lori, I love the way she phrased it. It's not a program. You're just hanging out with them and being with them. And then we talk about that together. And we see what happened. What would we find after 3 months? Maybe we would find, well, the one mission we were doing, we should have kept doing it. But you might also find, oh, it was good, but maybe that's not ours to do. Because our real charism, with all the other pieces, like, this is what we can do. Again, I'm not saying that. I'm just trying to give you a way of thinking about this, like experimenting, but acknowledging, like, even in the experimentation, like, oh, this is what that might mean. That's the hard part, the sad part. What happens, though, if we get more, and I'm sorry, what was your name? Marilyn? What happens, though, if what she just described happens on steroids or happens multiple times? Then our hearts are rejoicing, and that next generation begins to be one that we're in relationship with. So again, I'm just saying, like, those are the things for us to think about and wrestle with and go from there. So anyhow, something to think about. All right, here's the last thing I'm going to invite you to do tonight before I wrap us up. Yeah, sure, yeah.
Just a very interesting idea or experiment, because we have 2 very dynamic Bible study groups in the church, Wednesday morning and Saturday morning. And rather than have one of our lessons, what if the 18 people in our Saturday morning Bible study sat around and brainstormed about how we could reach out to a certain part of the community of the youth, if it's college or whatever, what ideas could we come up with? And the same thing with Wednesday morning, and then have sort of a, conglomerate those ideas together and see what might work. So we're just giving a little bit of our Bible study time.
That's it. Like, you got it. Like, great. What would it look like to experiment around that? And to have some extra fun, what if some of the Bible study was like a focus on when Jesus says, let the little children come to me, and then we go out and incarnationally do it. Like, that would be amazing. So thank you. Great idea. Absolutely. You got it. Like, what do those safe experiments look like? All right, last thing that we're going to do. One of the things we talk about a lot, and you guys have been keep rightly raising the question, well, how do we do that? How do we do that? One of the things we've discovered is that when you can name it, we can navigate it. When we can give language to something, it helps us figure out a way. So here's the last thing I want to invite you to do tonight. I want to invite you to take each one of these statements. I'm going to divide you up in just a second. And here's what I want to ask you to do. I want you to name in your mind what is a shift or the shift that would be needed to make this happen. So like on number one, if we were really going to reauthorize our church's mission as for the community rather than for ourselves, there would need to be a shift from this to this. Like, that's the formula you're going to fill in and name. Or the second one, if we're really going to have a shared lay leadership model rather than a pastor-centric one, well, then there's going to have to be a shift from this to this. Last one, if we're really going to reimagine our worship identity for a new generation, if that was ever really going to stand a chance of happening, well, then you know what? There has to be a shift from this to this. Okay? I just want to hear some responses to you. What kind of shift do you think would be needed? To make this simple, I'm going to ask this section if you'll just focus on the first one. What shift is needed so that your church's mission would go from yourselves to for the community? Wait, which one do you want? Wait. Okay, then you slide over here, because I'm going to let this whole section, you're going to do number 2, all right? What shift is needed? And then Steve, I'm going to put you, it's smaller, but I'm going to put you over here. You guys are going to talk about number 3, what shift is needed for that to happen, all right? So you're number 1, you're number 2, you're number 3. All right, you can talk either just to the person beside you or whoever, like people behind you. I just want to hear a few responses, all right? So talk among yourselves. Correct. No, that's correct. I didn't assign you to the one that you might most be passionate about. This is a random assigning. All right, yes, go ahead, talk. Take about 30 seconds to wrap up if you need it. And then I just want to honor our time. I know you put in a long day, but where we can pause now. Are you ready? Almost. All right. Here's what I want to do. I just want to hear us name it for each other. So we're going to start with this group over here. And for the number one, reauthorize the church's mission as for the community. For that to have a chance of happening, there would have to be a shift from this to this. What were some of the things this group came up with? Yeah.
Well, I think we really need to identify what it is that we want to try to address, because we can't just do a shotgun effect.
Yep.
For me personally, and we agreed that the youth are suffering with mental health issues right now. What can we do? Can we have Joan Sherolander, who's a child psychologist who works at school. Jean, is there someplace? We have people in the church, and my daughter that I'm sure I could rope in, who could do a seminar and help us. And maybe we would do like group therapy for kids, and have them come to the boathouse and talk about their problems and learn that they're not alone. And that could be a redirecting of our mission. Maybe even a little bit of our budget could go to hiring a professional in the area who oversees that, so we aren't making any boo-boos.
Awesome. So actually, thank you. I hear two shifts in that you actually lifted up. One, the first part of what you shared, we need a shift from unfocused to focused, right? From that shotgun scattered approach to focused. And then also you named a shift from, we would need a shift from being untrained when it comes to our youth to being trained. Really good. Really good. Anyone else in this group, any other shifts that you wanted to lift up?
When Donna started talking about we have to find out what the needs are,
Yeah.
I've had this little dream. We have a boathouse over there that's underutilized, and I think there would be a possibility to turn it into like a learning center where we address various issues, seniors, youth, mental health, and bring in outside professionals to talk about the topics that we focus on.
Great, good. Anyone else in this crew, it could be totally different, were there any other shifts that you were like, if we're gonna see this happen, there has to be this shift? Anyone else? Okay. All right, let's come to this group for number two, for the led leadership, rather than pastor-centric. You are ready, so go for it.
I'm ready. So number two, embrace a shared lay leadership model.
Yes.
Rather than a pastor-centric. Well, being a Presbyterian church, we already have that in place. It's called the session. And typically, in my experience here, I've been here for over 30 years. I've been on several sessions. We have a lot of professionals in this congregation. I would lay $1 to a donut that a lot of them have been on boards.
Yes.
Right? And have that experience. And
Yes.
typically my experience on the boards that I've been on, there's been the board, and within the board, somebody is elected president of that particular board.
Okay.
That president comes to the board and says, this is going to be our goal for this board this year, this single thing, this is the target. There's not going to be any deviation. We aren't going to wander in the forest. We aren't going to go in. This is it. And they break down into teams, however they want to do it. You're responsible for this. And they report back to that particular person in different increments of time throughout the year to see how their progress is. And during that time, if things are not going the way they seem necessary, they adapt at that point in time. Typically right now in the model that we have, it seems to me that's difficult for the session to decide on a specific goal on how to move this church forward. We're just problem solving. We've got maintenance and all that goes on, but we are not targeting what we need to do to move this church forward in a concrete way. We have the mindset here. We've got the brains to do it. That takes the pressure off of Steve That's not his role, you know, unless he wants to do it, you know. But he's got a lot to load. His job is to walk us closer to Christ. That's what we hired him for. We, as a session and a lay group here, our job is to guide the church in a way that fills that mission.
Yeah.
And we need to focus. We need laser focus.
Great. Yeah.
Just capitalizing on what he just said, it's really it boils down to delegating the responsibility, accountability, and authority to the various boards and sub-teams below those boards. And as I was describing to the group here, I think by sharing that responsibility and accountability, the folks that we identify as quote-unquote lay leaders will thrive because they've got that responsibility and accountability.
Yes.
And authority to carry out
Yes.
their quote-unquote mission.
Yes. Good. Good. Good.
Do you want to talk? No. Oh, it was really good what you said.
Yeah, go ahead.
Skip over
This was my group.
Okay, all right, Joyce.
Number one.
Yes.
I just want to make a comment to Bill and Dennis. About a year and a half ago, whenever we went to the gathering, growing, and going teams, we started meeting with Pastor once a month. And that has been so beneficial because we share the information of what our group is doing with each other, and everybody knows what the other, all three of us are doing, and it's worked out very well.
Great. Great. Super. I see back over here. Yeah.
Something that I heard in our group.
Where could you have heard it? Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm taking her off the hook.
Thank you.
There's some feelings that people would rather be asked to do something, and they're waiting to be asked. And so that gives me, as a leader, insight to the communication that there needs to be a shift in.
That's really good. Thank you.
Who's gonna?
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I think I took a too narrow viewpoint. I was thinking of lay leadership in worship.
Great.
And I was thinking we would need a bunch of people to volunteer things that they would be ready to do in worship. Who can read scripture, who can tell a children's story, who can have a moment for mission. I just think we need people to step up and say, here's what I'm ready to do.
Good. This is really good. So let me just tell you part of what I've heard. I'm going to share a couple I have in just a second with you, but what you're coming up with is better. Here's what I heard in the second group. Things such as a shift from not being held accountable towards a goal to held accountable towards a goal. A shift from non-empowerment to empowerment. A shift from under the one about not being asked to asked. There's a shift there, but also I would under that put from not being seen to seeing others and their gifts. And then on the last one that you were just talking about, from non-identified gifts to identified gifts to empower and put in place. So good. Yes, this is great. Well done. Group 3. Who's speaking for group 3? Great. So this is related to the worship identity for a new generation. What is the shift?
So I think we kind of felt like we're already in process on this a little bit. We've made some changes over the last couple months, and I think we're trying to identify what that looks like. But as we were talking about it, Jacob piped up, and Jacob reminded us that the reason kids and youth come to church is not necessarily the same reason all of us do. And we need to remember that and provide them opportunities for their own fellowship, if you will, even if it's playing basketball in the parking lot during Sunday school or whatever it is. And just make it fun for them. And I'm always reminded when I'm working with kids that sometimes the best way you teach them a lesson is by doing something that teaches them the lesson without teaching them the lesson, letting them learn it by osmosis. And sometimes I think the way we show kids and youth how to live out Christ's message is just by doing it in front of them. And I think if we do that while they're here and they're having fun, then they associate the two things with each other. So I thank Jacob for his words.
Yeah, I'm gonna activate a third microphone here so I can speak.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think Stan totally hit it on the head. Just making this a fun place to be for people, for young people that just want to come here and have fun, and they will grow into real faith out of that. Just by having this be a place where they want to be every week, and then letting them grow into real faith out of that. I think that is how I grew into being a church loving person. I really just like as I explained it over there. I was at a big mega church down in Cyprus, and all the amount of scripture and real Christian teachings going on there was very minimal, and there were hundreds of kids that would go there every week on Wednesday nights and just have a good time, and there'd be maybe 5 minutes of scripture in that whole 2-hour gathering, and the rest of it would just be chatting it up, asking how everybody's week was, having a good time, and playing basketball in the parking lot, and that's what made people want to come back every week. That's, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So some of the ones I heard there, super helpful again. Some different categories. A shift from formal to more informal. A shift from, I would call it non-incarnational to incarnational. Like just the being with, like in person, hanging out with. And maybe also from the shift from programmatic to relational and formational, and living into that. Great. Like those are all great starting points. What you've just done is given greater specificity to the shifts that we need, and again, that when we can name it, we can navigate it. And that was really, really good. And then, again, if we had more time, then we could start to figure out some of the hows underneath that. But you can't do that until we even know, like, what's our goal? What are we trying to do? We've just named some of those. Imagine now as we think about worship moving forward, what if we applied some of those shifts? As we're thinking about laity engagement and raising that up, how can we do a better job of seeing people's gifts, inviting them into it, holding them accountable to it, empowering them? What does it look like with the church's mission, as you guys have as we've articulated, just to get more focused in that direction, more intentional, train ourselves, like all of the, by asking those questions and naming them, it starts to give us direction for how to proceed. So really good. All right, you put me to shame. All I tried to do was, I just was a little bit more explicit on each one, but I like yours way better because you were talking about the attitudinal shifts. But all I said was shift from, just literally naming it for ourselves, shift from primary focus being on us to just saying, we are going to be about serving the community. The shift from pastor, we don't see as spiritual professional, even though he is, but to the body of Christ ownership when it comes to the vision and mission. And then from worship style preference or debate, like as that taking up the airtime, to multi-generational spiritual formation and going from there. So again, yours was way better at that, and I appreciate that. So, all on one, and again, what I'm going to do is take our comments tonight, and I will tighten things up, and I will get you a final report. But kind of, we call this our dashboard. Kind of on one slide, you kind of pull all of this together, that if you don't want to do all the reading of other things, you can look at this one slide, this one page, and it's a summary really of everything that we've talked about. That at the top there, we're clear on your charism, which we've named. I'll tighten that up again a little bit more. We've identified clearly in your charism your values of the hospitality, your charism, rooted in a come as you are approach, long-term relational faithfulness, incarnational service, grounded in biblical formation and worship. We've been clear about the pain point, and we can say it this way in regards to how is the community pain point calling for your charism. Part of it is that desire for identity, a sense of relational belonging in the midst of anxiety related to issues like homelessness, political polarization, crime, traffic frustration, city leadership, youth programming, education, etc. And then the adaptive initiatives and shifts that we've just walked through. So that now when you look at that dashboard, like hopefully this conversation is on your mind of what we mean with each one of those. And this then can start to be your guideline moving forward. So as we end tonight, I just want to name this for you. We've talked a lot about the difference between technical responses and adaptive responses. To be clear, I think technical responses are helpful. And so in the work we've done with you, I at least want to make sure you have some of those. These are things that you can just do. They're not necessarily easy, but they're clear. And so what are, like, one of the things in doing the work with you, what are some things we've learned under technical responses? Even just having some more regular staff meetings. Having times for combined leadership opportunities, so the overlap between your session and your staff. Schedule those, have those, give that time together. I know you're working on newsletters, but having them be more than announcements. Like those are places, that's a place to be transparent with whether it's finances or share great stories that are happening, however you might want to use it. Those are just things you can do tomorrow, and if you just do those, you're gonna see improvement in different ways. That's important, but what I hope you will do is, in addition to the technical things, and again, those technical things, we could have gotten that in a month. The whole reason that we have walked with you since the beginning of this year was so we could do the deep listening to talk about the things we've talked about tonight, to get at the adaptive responses, so that you all collectively can reauthorize the church's mission, so that you can reinvigorate shared lay-led leadership, so that you can reimagine worship, and so that vision, driving, alignment, and decision-making are not aspirational, but they're like, when you say it, you're actually going to do it. Like, it's not just ideas, like how do we embody this? Shelley, I think, said it earlier, if we do this right, even how you create your budget will be impacted, because your budget's a reflection of what's important to you. And so what's important to you is, like, in light of the things we talked about tonight. When we work it the right way, eventually even the budget will reflect the things we've talked about tonight. So that's the harder one, because that's the heart stuff that becomes challenging. So I told you that, again, I'm going to get you a final report, but in terms of where we are, this will conclude our time with you in the phase 1. If you desire, there is a phase 2. And in phase 2, lots of you tonight have been asking the how question. Phase 2 is all about how you live into the how. So if you look at it this way, we've done now a lot of the north-south work, which is, as we've identified with greater clarity, your mission, which is that crossover, the pain points, and your charism. We're talking tonight about your charism, the pain points. These affect your culture, all of those things. What we have not done is the east to west, which is, what does our infrastructure need to look like? What does our strategy need to look like? What does our branding need to look like to put into practice what we've done north and south? If you would ever want to, or felt led, phase 2 is all about, in this case, me working with you to implement what we've learned north-south, to implement east-west. Does that make sense on there? But I also want to be clear with you, you have everything you need now to move forward yourselves as well. Like, that's the goal. Like, the end of phase 1, you are set up. We've recognized the shifts we need to make, the adaptive challenges before us, the suggestions that we have. Like, you have it all now if you desire to make that happen among yourselves. And I hope and I pray that you do. So as we end, I just want to end this way. We've already done that. You might remember this if you were with us in our first meeting, but I want to end as we began. And I picked this out in part because I think I just hear potentially a whole lot of St. Peter's in this scripture. And it says this: Then Jesus went about all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues and proclaiming the good news of the kingdom and curing every disease and every sickness. And when he saw the crowds, he had compassion for them because they were harassed and helpless like sheep without a shepherd. And then he said to his disciples, the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore, ask the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest. You all have such a strong shepherding heart for each other, and I believe for your community. You are a people of compassion and beauty. And it is my hope that you will let God lead you in that compassion. Even if it's uncomfortable for us, for the greater reality of the kingdom. And that the gift you have with each other, which is so beautiful, there is a whole community right out here longing for it, whether they know it or not. But you know it, and God knows it, and that's enough. Know that you are in my prayers. It is such a joy for me to have had this opportunity with you all. I've loved learning about your church, but more importantly, I've loved learning to get to know you a little bit. So thank you so much for giving up an evening to come and be here. It says an awful lot that this many of you would come out and spend this long strictly on what God is seeking to do in your church, and that should be a really great encouragement to you. So if I could, I'd like to just close this in a word of prayer. Okay, let's pray. Lord God, thank you for the people in this room and the others who have been with us throughout this night. Thank you for the journey that you've led us on these last many months. Thank you for this church's willingness to live into compassion, to see with your eyes, the desire they have to love their community and especially the youth within it. It's powerful. And so, God, I pray that you be with them. And yes, Lord, there are challenges, but may the challenges be seen as new opportunities. May they realize, God, they have a great gift to offer to the world in their charism and who you've designed them to be. And Lord, I pray that in the days ahead, you will lead them, that they will be ever more outward facing to their community, that more and more, God, the laity will feel empowered and emboldened to use their gifts and their voice. And Lord, that as we gather together here tonight, we give you thanks in every way. In every way. That these are a people hungry to see your will be shared in our world. Lord, we love you. I pray that you pour out your Holy Spirit upon them and that you lead them forward as you desire. And God, in our moments of frustration or hurt, when we don't feel very resilient, let us lift our eyes to you, the author and perfecter of our faith, that we would experience your kingdom and share your goodness, your grace, your generosity, and your gratitude in all that we do. I pray your blessing upon them. I pray this in the power of your Holy Spirit, in the name of Jesus together. Amen. Have a great night, everyone. Good to be with you.